Please refrain from taking a gander upon my swollen watermelon face. A couple of days ago, I went to the dentist and they surgically ripped all 4 of my wisdom teeth out from my face. So now I get the privilege of walking around looking like a damn Cabbage Patch doll. I look like the rejected 4th member of Alvin and the Chipmunks. I am not having a fun time right now. Our favorite film theorists, the Film Theorists, are here to give us the insider information on how to beat and survive the games of Saw. That dental chair that I was sitting in was basically a real-life Saw game in itself. I was strapped down and blinded by the world's brightest skylight. Dude shoved things into my mouth that forcibly pried it open and then proceeded to stick various sharp and metal objects into my oral cavity. Not to mention I was awake the entire time, so I heard him drilling, scraping, and yanking every single time he was extracting one of these damn teeth. Pretty sure my dentist's name was Dr. Jigsaw with the amount of torture that I had to go through. I really wish I had this video 2 days ago, because I probably would have been able to walk away unharmed and still beautiful and dashing, but I guess it is what it is. So without further ado, without wasting any more time, film theory, how to survive Saw. Let's see what we got.
Did you know that at least one Saw appears in each and every one of the Saw movies? It's true. Sometimes they're used for autopsies, sometimes they're used for severing body parts, sometimes they're used for surgically removing teeth from a beautiful light-skinned face. That's what happens.
For
good old killing, but the namesake of the franchise has in every installment at least appeared once. And sure, you can find any number of listicles online looking and ranking the best Saw films, but have you ever seen someone talk about the best Saws in Saw? No, you have not. So we ran the numbers and get this. The average Rotten Tomatoes score for films where the Saw doesn't kill someone is higher than the movies where the Saws do kill someone. 34.6% versus 24.3%. But appearances of hacksaws ultimately win the day. Movies with a hacksaw average out to 33.75%. Movies with an electric saw, like a buzzsaw or circular saw, are much lower at 23.5%. Looks like all the lists are right, friends. Not all saws are created equal.
Film theory.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory.
Hey, Matt. How you doing, man?
Wants to play a game. The rules of the game.
Look it. The crazy thing is this is exactly what my dentist looks like. Just put like one of them masks over, and then there you go. That's him.
Hit the subscribe button, or else,
literally psychotic.
Can't really make you wear a reverse bear trap or anything, and totally out of acid. If you don't subscribe, you'll have to dress like cool kid Jigsaw from the final chapter. The only thing worse than death by Saw, death by cringe.
In 2004, millions of people went to the theaters and saw the psychological thriller Saw. And everyone who saw Saw knew it was something special because it featured brutal violence, interesting themes, and a villain named John Jigsaw Kramer who not only could engineer brilliant traps, but could...
Look it! Bro, this is crazy. This is crazy. Look it. Exactly what I said. They forcibly pried my mouth open and then shoved various pointy and metal objects into my mouth. This is an accurate representation of what I look like laying in that damn dentist chair.
Engineer brilliant traps, but could lay face first on a gross bathroom floor for hours.
And that's how I felt afterwards.
The best thing about these movies are the elaborate and creative traps they present. A pit of needles, a laser collar, a machine that slowly pulls your hair out. I mean, they are brutal contraptions. After you hear those iconic words,
I want to play a game,
you know that things are about to get serious. While the character on screen is forced to think about survival on the fly, the audience is forced to ask itself largely the same things, like whether you'd actually be able to use a hacksaw to take off your foot. You learn the rules of the game with the characters, and when one of them miraculously survives, it's thrilling because you're in the situation with them, and you don't have to hear that final tagline of "Game over." Here's the thing though, what if you weren't safely in the audience? As I've talked about in a previous film theory, Jigsaw's ideology is wildly flawed. Thanks, Billy the Puppet, I had to hack off my arm with a butcher's knife because you didn't think I was appreciating life enough. But man, now I'm sure glad to be alive. Can't wait for all those years of counseling I'll be getting to deal with my survivor's remorse. As such, Jigsaw's
exactly, like this dude Jigsaw was like kidnapping people and torturing them, forcing them to become better human beings, when really he just traumatized and scarred them for the rest of their lives. lives, dude.
Selection is a bit hard to predict.
Nice.
In other words, you could very well be living a perfectly upstanding life, but potentially wind up in the next reverse bear trap without even knowing what you did wrong. And when that happens, you can't go in ill-prepared. So that is our question for today. How do you survive Saw? Based on everything that we see in the series' 9 movies, what can you do to maximize your odds of survival? How do you not just play the game, but hack the game in advance to give yourself the best chance of living possible?
Live or die. Make your choice.
Live. Yep, definitely choosing live there. Overall, across the whole series, there's only 19 examples of when games are won and 68 examples
in
of
all
when
seriousness,
people die.
before we get into this, bro, if I ever ended up in one of these Saw games, bro, just kill me. Please, you will not catch me sawing off my own foot for survival. Hell no. Hell no, my will to live is not that strong, dude. You got me fucked
examples of
up.
when games are won and 68 examples of when people died. That is a 21.8% success rate, which, let's just say is not a grade that's gonna get you onto any honor rolls. In other words, the best first step to surviving John Kramer's game is not getting selected in the first place. So, who does he pick and why? Well, we took John's own advice.
If you're good at anticipating the human mind, it leaves nothing to chance.
And analyzed every character, game, timeline, flashback, motive, and death to help us avoid getting strapped into our next shotgun carousel. Jigsaw and his acolytes believe that the death traps help people. They attempt to transform lazy or corrupt human beings who devalue and squander their lives into people with a refreshed appreciation for their existence. And so,
I appreciate me walking around with one foot and half a lip because I got tortured by this fucking puppet on a tricycle. Yeah, man, that's a great philosophy. That definitely works out. It's definitely not going to be traumatized in a nut house for the rest of my life. Absolutely not. No.
Some of his victims
I love
make
life.
sense.
Thank
In the
you,
first
Saw.
movie alone, you have people who've tried to take their own lives, people who commit fraud, drug addicts, and adulterers. But then there are others like Detective Singh, who's a good cop and was just killed by a shotgun trap in Jigsaw's lair. Or Zepp, a hospital orderly who's generally very nice. Or Allison and Diana Gordon, 2 family members that were kidnapped in order to ensure that someone else who is corrupt would play the game. For a guy that says,
Killing is distasteful to me.
he casts a wide net. One film in, and his choices are already
The
pretty
irony.
questionable. So after analyzing all of the game contestants, I came up with a short list that tells you exactly how to not be selected. 1, don't be corrupt or work for corrupt
Okay.
people. It's a pretty obvious
got
one.
that.
Less obvious, don't be related or married to anyone corrupt. Doesn't matter
Okay,
if you
I certainly
appreciate
hope
life,
not.
as
Bro,
long
let
as
me,
you're
let me find out my mom is embezzling millions of dollars into gas stations, running a multi-million-dollar international drug empire, and I just don't know yet,
relative or
dude.
spouse doesn't,
Imagine.
you're likely going to be put into the game.
And
Doesn't even
then,
matter if you
that's maybe that's why I ended up in that damn torture chamber of a dentist office, bro. Maybe there's something I don't know.
know about the corruption. You're in danger by association. For instance, in Saw 2, Eric Matthews' son is put in the game.
Those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life.
My son appreciates his life.
But do you appreciate yours? Do you appreciate your sons?
Unexpected corollary to all of this, don't be the spouse or child of someone who's died because of a corrupt person. Next up, don't be a jerk. No racists, no snitches, no
okay,
adulterers, and
okay.
don't you dare laugh at the sick or elderly because Jigsaw is an aging sick man and he does not take kindly to that. Getting back into self-explanatory
All right, I think I'm
territory,
good so
don't do
far.
criminal activities like drugs or murder, and don't flee the scene of your crime. Next one's a hard one. Try not to be depressed. I get it, that might not be in your control,
Well,
but if you
guess I failed, dude. Nice,
depressed,
man. There you go.
Don't post publicly about it. Seriously, if you don't want to be locked in a death furnace, just keep your melancholic tweets to yourself. Don't. Ooh, here's a good catch-all. Jobs. Avoid being a doctor or a cop. Doesn't matter if you're good at your job or bad, Jigsaw has taken people for
Okay,
being
I
both
do not
too
plan
good
on that,
and too
so-
bad. Pretty much all the major law enforcement characters in this franchise die. Also, you can be a janitor, but only at upstanding legal businesses. If you're a janitor at a corrupt business, you are fruit of the poisonous tree and will likely be plucked. And working for big pharma or big insurance is just right out. Big no-go there. Lastly, and most
Okay.
importantly, do not pretend that you are a survivor of Jigsaw. If you do, you, your team, everyone you love and care about will die horribly. It is not
Well,
pretty.
it's too late. I'm not pretending. I am not pretending. The torture that and the agony that I had to suffer in that dentist chair was basically Jigsaw, so I'm a survivor. I'm not pretending, okay? I survived.
Friends. So, that's
Okay.
the list. Honestly, I'd say you should just live in a bubble and do nothing, but then you might be picked for a game because you're hiding from the world and not appreciating your life appropriately. Good news, though, if you follow this list, you've severely lessened your chances of being picked. Bad news is, you're still at risk.
So it's essentially, if you are like a toddler, then you're safe to, then you're chilling.
These guys
you
are
just gotta
kind
be
of
a
fickle and
toddler.
inconsistent.
Once
Let's say
you're
that
like
one day you're
15,
looking at
it's
your
over.
phone and you bump into one of Jigsaw's apprentices, spilling super hot coffee all over their face. This apprentice is now super annoyed because the pig mask they wear is going to be super uncomfortable, so you're nabbed and put into a trap under the excuse that you were absorbed in your phone rather than looking up, appreciating the world around you. So congratulations, you are now in a Jigsaw trap despite your best efforts. What do you do? Well, when you break it down statistically, there are 7 different types of traps in Jigsaw's games. Standard traps, competitions, tests, trials, security traps, execution traps, and inescapable traps. Standard traps are devices or scenarios applied to a victim that'll kill the test subject if the task isn't completed within a certain amount of time. The iconic reverse bear trap is a classic example.
This is what I need to know, bro, because this was me. This is what I need to know, bro. How could I have escaped the torture?
Saw 2's death mask and Saw 4's knife chair. Competition traps involve 2 or more victims that can pass their tests individually, but only at the expense of the other victim. Saw 3D's love triangle, where 2 boyfriends and the cheating girlfriend between them have to decide who gets sawed to death, is pretty iconic for this. Tests are games that involve a victim being given instructions to a specific task, like Zepp having to kidnap an innocent family in the first movie in order to live. Trials are a series of tests that the victim has to face in order to show psychological progress. This is basically every puzzle seen throughout Saw 5. A security trap is just a glorified security device like the quadruple shotgun hallway trap, which is literally just a bunch of guns on a tripwire. Execution traps are just there to finish off people in creative ways, like Saw 5's water cube, where there's no game, there's just death. And lastly, there are the inescapable traps, which, as the name implies, are just used to kill people, like the rigged pendulum trap. Sure, there's a game that you can play to quote-unquote win, but the game is rigged against you regardless of what you actually do. So equipped with all that information, what do you do? Well, the number 1 rule in all of the Saw franchise is that
Rules of our game have been made very clear. You need to abide by those rules.
I understand that it's easier said than done when it comes to listening
Follow
to a
the rules.
tricycle-riding puppet giving you instructions, and you have like 60 seconds on the clock. But Jigsaw is pretty upfront about how to play and win each game. Research shows that fear can actually cause your brain's executive network, which is responsible for problem solving, to constrict and work less effectively, which means that you're gonna have to be prepared to listen intently when each game begins. Saw 2 is full of people screwing this fundamental lesson up. In Saw 2, a note explicitly says, "Do not attempt to use this key on the door to the room. The key is used to open the door," and boom, it kills someone. Later, all Detective Eric Matthews had to do was
I love how it literally says, "Hey, don't use this key," and then he uses the damn key. Like, what the hell are you doing?
around in order
Like,
to win.
I want to play a game.
It says don't do that.
What you have to do is sit here and talk to me.
Typical
Listen to
American.
me. If you do that long enough, then you will find your son in a safe and secure state.
Instead, he falls victim to Jigsaw's tricks and winds up in multiple movies and a long series of traps trying to escape until eventually dying in Saw 4. It also doesn't help that only 31.25% of entrants in the standard traps actually pass. What's even worse than that is that 3 of the games were rigged, 2 of the 5 people who passed their tests were killed immediately afterward, and all 5 of them ended up dead later on in the series. Surviving a game doesn't always mean that you're going to be alive later, which means that we need to go on to lesson number 2, just go ham on it. If you have a chance of winning, you need to go hard and you need to go fast. We see this with Amanda in Saw 2's Pit of Needles, and more so with Charles in Saw 5's necktie trap. By acting fast and first in his group, he's able to ensure his survival while everyone else is still left in danger. And with that, good news! You've passed the isolated test and your hands are probably crushed, if not entirely sawed off. As you walk away, you hear Jigsaw saying,
Congratulations, you are still alive. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you.
Gee, I wonder why,
You
man.
respond with a hearty thumbs up if your bleeding hands can still manage to move, and you pretend to walk away with a swagger
even have
that
a thumb.
indicates that you are very grateful to be alive. The bad news is that as you approach the exit, a man in a pig mask drugs you, heals your hands, and then locks you up in yet another room, this time with total strangers. Billy pops back up again and tells you that everyone needs to work together to pass a series of competition traps and trials, and you have 3 hours to do so because you have poison flowing through your veins that'll melt you from the inside.
Listen, bro, I'm grateful that I was the only one in the dental chair, bro, because if I'm in one of these traps And you know what I'm saying? If it's me or them, I'm picking them, dude. Cause I'm dipping, bro. I'm winning this game. I do not take L's. I do not take L's. I only take W's. I'm built diffy.
Out. Hate to tell you
So
this,
if I gotta push Barbara off of a cliff into a bottomless void, I'm doing it.
13
I don't care.
of the 41 games,
Sorry,
or
Barbara.
25.4% of Jigsaw's tests that involve 2 or more
Shouldn't have
people
cheated on
are passed.
Dale.
In games that have 4 or more people working together, the odds are definitely stacked against you. Only 4 of the 17 people in the 4+ group games walked out alive. And even those numbers lie, considering 2 of those are coming from Saw 2, with 1 being a Jigsaw apprentice placed in the game to keep the other survivor safe. TLDR here, the odds are stacked against you, but you can increase your odds by killing and sacrificing all your teammates. Now, that
Exactly.
might sound like I'm a horrible person, but
Exactly.
don't blame me. Blame the game maker and
Exactly,
also the numbers.
dude. I do not feel
Statistically,
bad.
the
I'm
group
this. If it's I'm living or you're living, I'm living.
will
Stop
turn
playing
on
with
you
me.
eventually, considering that we see it happen in Saw 2, Saw 5, and Jigsaw. Psychologically speaking, everyone deals with trauma differently. Now add in a ticking clock and the threat of poison killing you, and you have a recipe for disaster. The people in your group will develop tunnel vision. They'll become hysterical. They'll develop a fight or flight reaction which hinders your chances at survival. And these challenges are already hard enough. The last thing you need is other people weighing you down in a crisis moment. So just deal with them early before you're forced to deal with them. As an added bonus,
Exactly.
make sure you bring a dead body or 2 with you to the next room. Their flesh, blood, insert vital organ here is probably going to be helpful in the upcoming trial. And speaking of bringing stuff with you, remember what tools you really have available and bring as much with you between chambers as you can. In most of Jigsaw's challenges, especially the trials, you are the one progressing things forward, shutting doors behind you, etc. to start timers. So before you lock yourself into the next game, make sure that you're going in prepared. Assess the scene. Take your time. Go back to the room that you just left and pick up things that might be helpful. Any tools, broken pipes, long sticks, your fellow deceased contestants. Remember that in pretty much all circumstances, Jigsaw is letting you keep your clothes on, and things like jackets, belts, shoes can do a lot in these sorts of situations. Between your tools and clothes and the tools and clothes that might be coming from your deceased contestants, you can actually do a lot here. Most of these traps work remotely and use fairly rudimentary tools to operate. Pressure plates, simple chains, and hydraulics. So having a bit more reach and the ability to shove something hard and solid into contraptions can actually help a lot. Lastly, urine can act
I
as
didn't
a
even think of that. I didn't even think of that, bro. Yeah, just break it, dude. Like, you got a big metal thing pulling a chain, you're about to cut your head off, bro. Yeah, just shove something in there, stop it, and then you good, bro. I didn't even think of that.
Assuming it didn't all leak out due to fear in the first chamber.
It's
And with
genius.
that, you walk
Is that
out
a
of your
nut
final
stain?
shoot for blood. Assuming contraptions can actually help a lot. Lastly,
Who
urine
nutted?
can act as a substitute for blood, assuming it didn't all leak out due to fear in the
Oh,
first
it's-
chamber.
okay.
And with that, you walk out of your final test. Congratulations, you've survived. Now relax in the knowledge that you'll be surveilled by Jigsaw and his crew for the rest of your life, because that's exactly what happens to most of the survivors in these movies. So keep your head low, research any companies that you plan on working for, listen, follow the rules, sacrifice anyone and everyone around you, and then pretend to be happy that you went through the single most frightening experience in your life.
Seize the day, Jeff. For real. Go running naked in a hailstorm, kiss a girl in the middle of the day, fly a kite, but do it for yourself.
Well, yourself and the pig masked army watching your every move, waiting for any excuse to throw you back into another game. But hey, that's just a theory. This,
All right,
however,
man.
could be the beginning of a long summer of the best horror
Interesting. Okay. Okay, bro. I really wish I had this video fucking 2 days ago before I was sitting in that dental chair succumbing to the torture, pain, and agony of that dental drill and the psychotic dentist, bro. Pretty sure he had one of his eyes like turned white and he had a crazy look in his eye like he was ready to just slaughter me, bro. Because I was not having a fun time, dude. I really could have used some of this information. I really could, you know what I'm saying? Like, he said you can use the tools on your own body. I could have took my shoe off and then they just started beating the hell out of that dentist, bro. Tell him, get that drill away from me, you fiend, you know what I'm saying? You evil doer. You know what I'm saying? Or I could have like reached over to like the dental assistant. She had like the sucky thing that sucks all the water out, bro. I could have put it in like sucked it on like his throat or something, distract him, give me a chance to jump up and run away, you know what I'm saying? I feel like this really would have came in handy, bro, but this was very informative, you know what I'm saying? So if anybody's watching this, I really hope you are taking notes, because you never know. At any time, you could be kidnapped by some weird psychopath in a deranged pig mask, You can end up in a bathroom, chained by the ankle with some dude you've never met before in your life. It smells really bad in there. You don't know if it's the dude or if it's the bathroom. You got a saw, you got to cut your ankle off, bro. It says I hope you're taking notes, because this could happen to anybody. Look at me. It happened to me. I just barely survived by the skin of my teeth. No pun intended. You know what I'm saying? I just barely survived. And I didn't even need this, but that's just because I'm built different. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like this definitely would have came in handy 2 days ago when I was being tortured in that dentist chair.